Welcome back to the Real Arsenal Deal podcast. This is your host, Rav, recording this Sunday morning, Australian time, Melbourne time, in the aftermath of what was an awful performance and a terrible result overnight for Arsenal. It's been something that I felt has just been coming for us. I didn't expect it'd happen in this match or so soon after the return of football after Dubai. It's a very tough one to process, as I'm sure many of you who have watched or are aware of the result and the performance, you're all processing it in your own ways too. Firstly, look, thank you again for being here. This is not going to be an easy one. It's not going to be pleasant viewing. I'm sorry in advance for that. I think much of the content and fallout in the coming days before our next match midweek against Forest is going to be, a bit difficult to digest and swallow. I too will be tuning in to all the main podcasters, Arsblog, and everyone will have their say. I watched Gunner Blog's YouTube video this morning, and look, it's not easy, right? It's just not easy to handle this result. I think it's the performance more than the result, which is that irked me the most. So look, I've had a couple of goes at trying to record this, and it ended up me just incoherent, babbling mess. So hopefully it's third time lucky here. I'll try and remain measured and upbeat and, positive overall, and try and give some actual critique. I'm not going to be throwing the ranting and raving and throwing things out of the cot, so to speak. That's just not me. I'll just try and call it like it is, or call it how I see it. And what was most difficult for me was the performance. So I'll delve into that a bit more. Firstly, we have to start with selection. I think that was the biggest thing coming into this match. We had a week to prepare, and from what we heard, that much of the week was the preparation was Merino as the centre forward, and that was a focal point in training. I'm sure there were alternatives that Arteta was trying, because we need every option on the table, right, for depending on the match situation. So I wasn't overly surprised that Merino started. I saw some suggest maybe he could start in the midfield role, like such as Havertz used to do as the left 8, and play the same front 3 as last week, including Sterling, because again, without making it all about Raheem Sterling, I think enough has been covered on that topic to avoid a pile-on. We know the circumstances of that transaction, deadline day, signing him from Chelsea, and otherwise not being active last summer in the forward market and using our resources elsewhere. So we know all about that. It is what it is now. We have who we have. The reality is, with 4 senior forwards out, that we need everyone on deck. And I was really hoping, for those of you who have listened in recent weeks, I was really hoping Dubai was the key to unlock Sterling, getting him away and working with him, and hopefully being able to get him to contribute, post Dubai. And unfortunately, it didn't quite happen against Leicester. We thought, maybe is there a chance that if he played centrally this time, Trossard on the left, where he looks much better, would that make a difference? However, the selection largely took care of itself. 2 changes: Merino in to start, and Lewis Skelly came out of the lineup for Calafiori, which I can understand, because at home against West Ham, 16th in the Premier League, Calafiori really does give you those driving, surging runs that can help break down low blocks. So look, I didn't have too many issues around selection. I've seen some question that, and look, every time there's a loss, every single thing is dissected, right? Every single aspect is dissected. Every substitution made, what minute was made, who came off, who didn't come on, right? Everything gets micro-analysed, and that's just the nature of it, nature of football, nature of us as fans. We all search for answers. We search, for any compelling reasons, what could have been done different, and we almost look who to blame as well. Arteta, the board, Jason Ato, Edu, right? We all, I think just some natural human coping mechanisms at play, right? So the best I can do is just call it how I see it. I think selection was okay, because it was largely limited to just the set options that I mentioned before. Arteta seems reluctant to try, Nathan Butler Owadeji, he seems reluctant to try him. He hasn't featured at all post Dubai, despite all the all the attacking shortages we have. So I'm wondering if this is now the catalyst that he'll get a look in the next few weeks. But look, I'm a little bit all over the shop already. I can already hear myself wavering a little bit. So I'll try and maintain a bit of a structure to this. I've covered selection. Onto the match, and this is probably going to be the hardest part of this whole podcast itself. So again, apologies in advance to you, because this is not something I particularly enjoy. If you've listened to me before, you will hopefully have noted that I look for the glimpses, the glimmers of hope and pathways that we can try and extract and follow to not only eke out wins and performances game by game and get the best out of the players we have, but also pathways to still salvage something in this season. Because going into this match, we had the opportunity to bring it down to 5 points again, and dial up the heat on Liverpool, who are away at the Etihad tonight. And we're in the quarterfinals. We're in the round of 16 of the Champions League, and with an excellent chance against PSV to advance to the quarterfinals. That's what I meant to say. So I still try and salvage as much belief and hope as I can, and much of that is predicated on the players we have now. Because we still have quality across the pitch, right? The back line is still excellent. We have a world-class goalkeeper, world-class central defensive partnership, Saliba and Gabriel. Very good options, excellent options at fullbacks, and the emergence of Lewis Skelly out of nowhere this season. We've got Ben White now back in the squad, who we hardly even mention anymore, because it's just become normalised that how well we were able to cope without him for 3 months, and how well Yurien Timber has done off the back of an ACL. He's been outstanding. We have excellent depth in midfield. Rice, Partey, Jorginho always does a job when he comes in. So we have enough quality across the board to still find a way. And here's where I'm most disappointed, that looking at the intensity of this match, looking at the urgency or lack thereof, if you were just to watch this game without knowing the context or without knowing where Arsenal are poised, you'd find it very difficult to believe that this is a team fighting for the title, right? And I put every disclaimer on that again, as unlikely as it is, as slim a chance. If you were to put a percentage chance on it, I'm not sure what the stats would say, would probably be 10% chance, 15% chance perhaps of winning the Premier League from this position, given how many things have to go right, how many things are outside of our Arsenal's control, how many injuries we've suffered, and so on. So given how slim and dire the situation was, still though, the mentality has to be that we do everything we possibly can, leave it all out there, and whatever happens, happens. The club has demonstrated this before, right? Like last year, we took it to the final day. I was so proud of them, right? That compared to the previous season, where we basically just handed it to City by our late season collapse, right? We didn't really make them earn it, so to speak. Like I want Liverpool to earn it. I want them just to keep one eye on the rearview mirror and just peer over the shoulder, and them having to just place a tiny seed of doubt in there, because you never know what can snowball since. I wanted us to leave it all out there and do what we can and get our job done. And you wouldn't have thought that watching this match, like just from it was off from the opening. And I understand that there's perhaps a bit more caution that we're going to see with Arsenal, because we know that opposition teams know that how stretched we are, and they're going to camp out deep, low blocks. West Ham played a back five, 3 central midfielders in front of them, protecting that area, giving us absolutely nothing to work with. We know that they're going to try and grind us down, noting that, look at our bench, we've got 4 fullbacks, three of which came on today, and that tells you a story in itself. But I don't want to deviate too far into the transfer window talk, because we know what an utter failure that cumulative transfer windows have been that have led us to this dire situation, right? So what I'm trying to say is we understandably are a little bit cautious, because we know we've got to, as the game opens up and the game gets deeper and deeper, and the scores hopefully are still level, that we can stretch them, we can open up. It paid dividends against Leicester. And maybe there was an element of, look, just just work our way into this match. But something was just off from the start. We were misplacing passes. I'm not going to go hard on Wanyeri. He's outstanding, 17 years old. It shouldn't be left up to him, but it kind of is. He looked off as well from the opening. He was just those nice little interchanges on that little corridor. He was missing a few passes. Odegaard, I believe, oh dear, there's a wider discussion to have about Odegaard, and I'm reluctant to do the individual, single out individuals, right? And that's just not my vibe. I don't want to go too hard at individuals. We just don't know what's happening behind the scenes with individuals, any niggles, their health, how their body's coping, recovery, their mental health, their personal lives, their circumstances. So I avoid as much as I can making any commentary or speculation around that. However, just something's just been not quite right with our captain the last few months, I believe. It's just really affecting his performances. I know he's had some awful injuries too. He's missed 3 months at the start of the season, and that's a real setback, because his game is he has a tremendous engine on him, leads the press, he covers so much distance. I think historically, along with Kai and Declan Rice, Odegaard is right up there in terms of sprints, distance covered, the pressure situations. Like, he's integral to Arsenal's play, and he's just looked off. That final ball is missing, the passing's missing. His goals, unfortunately, have dried up. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I believe he's on 2 Premier League goals this season, which is just, unfortunately, not enough. Declan Rice is on 1, and he's playing the majority of the season in that more advanced role. He's given more freedom and license to hit the boxes, be more of a box-to-box midfielder. We need more. We need more output and contributions from them, unfortunately, as bad and as much of an impact that our injuries have had on us. And no one likes hearing this. It's a bit of a cliche that we just got to do the best with the players we have now. I know no one likes hearing that. However, it's true. We do need more from them. It's just all the little things matter. Our set-piece goals have dried up. They've dried completely up. I cannot recall the last time we scored from a corner, or a free kick, a header or something from a free kick. It's just dried right up. I mean, first half of the season, I know it was a meme at the time, set-piece FC. However, it was a meme because we did people's heads in, that they had no answers. They can stop us. They can stop our fluency. They can stop our open play goals. They can negate that. But you give us a set piece, give us a sniff of danger, and we take it because we're ruthless. That's why they got so annoyed about it, and dubbed us all those sort of nicknames you saw circulated around, is because, it's a badge of honor, so to speak. It's a compliment because we still find a way. We bulldoze our way through. Gabriel just charges through and slams one in off his head and game over, right? That's dried up. There was a free kick today, late in the match, where right in front of goal in that little D, that curve. Where's Odegaard? He should have taken that. Sterling just came on a few minutes ago, and I'm not going to do the pylon, right? As soon as I saw Sterling hovering over the ball, I was like, what is going on? He should not, aside from just that little conference the senior players have around a set piece and they discuss what they're going to do with it, that's fine. However, when the players started to disperse and looks like he was going to take it, Odegaard was like covering his hand over his mouth and whispering instructions to him. What are you doing? Like that's Odegaard's free kick. He's our captain. He should be taking it. And I know the stat is something like 3.5 seasons now since our last goal from a direct free kick, which I believe was Odegaard himself. However, he should be taking it. And it was no surprise that the ball just ricocheted off the wall and it amounted to nothing. It's like, what are we doing? There was a set piece around the same time where we had players lined up in the box, right, to whip the ball in, and inexplicably, within a few seconds, the ball is worked back to Raya. What are we doing? It was just a very unlike Arsenal performance. It was very unusual. Like we were nervous. We were very, very timid, lacking urgency, lacking drive. And you wouldn't have thought that this is a team that's fighting for the Premier League. And that's my biggest regret. It really is. We're not going to win every match. I'm certainly not entitled enough to believe that Arsenal have some kind of birthright to winning every competition, every match, every trophy. It's not about that. What I do want to see, and maybe many others feel the same way, is that you want to see them leave no questions unanswered, leave no stone unturned. Try whatever you can, try the best if you can. And if the result doesn't happen, it's life, right? That's football. It mirrors life. You do your best, and what happens, happens, and we go on from there. I can't, hand on heart, say that Arsenal did that this morning. And it took me I don't want to make it a whole big sob story, right? But it's difficult to fall asleep after that, right? So for context, it's a 2 a.m. kickoff here in Australia. Look, I have young children, so I know what I'm doing when I make these choices. I've been doing it for almost 30 years now, right? In dealing with the time zone differential. So my alarm goes off, silent alarm, of course. I just vibrating under my pillow. It goes off at 1:50. I tune in on the iPad, got my earphones ready, everything's charged, all ready bedside. Watch the match, and then it finishes just on 4. I half thought about recording a podcast then, but now that would have been ridiculous. No one wants to hear me ramble on at that time of the morning. And look, by the time I got back to sleep, it was probably well past 5, and we were a pretty early rising family, right? We're up and around the sort of 6 o'clock mark. So yeah, I'm struggling a bit today. Self-inflicted. But I'd do it all again because, I love this club. I absolutely do. I love Arsenal, and I'd always support them, and I'll always back them, and I'll be watching again the next match, rain, hail or shine. I'll be watching. It's just how I feel. And, in the aftermath of the match, right, I've seen many Arsenal losses at all times of the morning, and I'm able to compartmentalize it and go back to bed. That's not the issue. It was the sense of regret that as I lay down, close my eyes, all I'm thinking of, what was that? How come we didn't, how can this team, with a week to prepare, here's the thing, we had 1 week off. We've all felt the impact and the pressure and of the unrelenting schedule in December, January, playing every 3 days, and we've all sort of been craving for, geez, wouldn't it be easier just when the fixture congestion eases a little bit, give them more time to recover, the players can just invest in their bodies and their health and nutrition a bit more, right? And recovery, active recovery at the club. We can work on different strategies and tactics on the training ground. And we had all of that this week, all of it. We had 1 week off. We went from one team at the bottom of the table last week, Leicester, to another one who's not too far further up, West Ham. We should be winning this match. We had 7 days to prepare, and that's what we produced. And that's the part I really find, I'd say it's unacceptable, right? Arteta uses some very strong language. That's his mentality, that he wants just to sort of, that's what he wants. He wants that level of excellence for all across the club, no matter what you do at the club, what you represent. I would say this is unacceptable. And it was really, really disappointing when there's still so much potentially to play for. Just on the red card, for context, I believe it's a red card. I've seen a reverse angle where Kudus makes pretty high contact with Lewis Skelly's head, and look, a more senior player maybe can just sort of go down, clutching their face and draw attention to that. But look, it is what it is, right? I thought he was lucky live to be given a yellow from where Raya was positioned, and Kudus applied excellent pressure onto Lewis Skelly, and unfortunately the young man, he didn't have a great moment there, and he did what he needed to do to bring him down. And yeah, it's a red card. Look, I'm not going to go in too hard on that. I believe it's a red card. If that happened in reverse, I'd be screaming, metaphorically screaming from my bed, watching on an iPad. I'd be saying that's a damn red card. So for me, no issue with that. That kind of killed off whatever chance we had. I'll touch on briefly the goal we conceded. A terrible goal to concede. Encapsulates what I was saying before about how un-Arsenal-like this was. Very strange that Declan tracks Bowen the whole time, right? He knows he's over his shoulder, and then just loses him. Bowen drifts into that space between the two centre halves, and that they probably know that Rice has got that covered. Inexplicably, he doesn't. He loses it, doesn't go for the header himself or to block it out, and bang, 1-0, game over. And look, Calafiori, I feel, should have done better. Against Wan-Bissaka, who had an excellent game. He was a constant threat, constant menace. Could Lewis Skelly have applied more defensive pressure there? Probably yes. However, that's the I guess that's the trade-off we choose to make when we utilise Calafiori in these sort of home games with his more attacking skill set, mindset. So there'll be a lot of regrets around that goal, right? It just shouldn't have been conceded. It all came about at the other end from Odegaard, inexplicably just playing an underhit pass and gave it up, and then we were just caught on the counter. West Ham were a threat on the counter the whole match, right? Tactically, they had us on toast. Graham Potter has it over Arteta and Arsenal, similar to how Eddie Howe does. Is there something about him? He outcoaches Arteta time after time, and come into the Emirates. He's done it before and he did it again, right? It's just very, very, very predictable and just a very lackluster performance that we just allowed these things to happen. They were unfolding live in real time in front of our eyes, and we couldn't respond. We couldn't deal with it. We didn't have much to call upon on the bench, right? I already mentioned we brought on 3 fullbacks. Sterling came on because one year I saw him in the minutes before. He was limping. I don't know the severity of the injury, but, that'll just add, further injury to insult in this situation where I now feel, unfortunately, our title campaign is done. Yes, Liverpool could still lose tonight. The gap would remain 8 points. How many more times, though, are we going to be in this position where Liverpool, if they have a wobble or drop points and we fail to capitalise? You can only do that so far, right? There's only so many games left in the season, but I think realistically now, hand on heart, the slim chances that I was holding on to and talking about in recent weeks, I think realistically it's done. You just cannot lose to West Ham at home at this point of the season, going away to Forest midweek, and then we've got United and Chelsea looming shortly after. You cannot lose this match and still expect to be there come the final day when they're handing out the Premier League trophy. It's just a very, very disappointing, very flattening day for Arsenal. So much hope is now placed on the Champions League, and look, we're going to get to a point similar to last season where choices in the transfer market, they come back to bite, right? So when you're deep into the second leg of a Champions League tie, needing a goal, needing that firepower, that difference maker, right? And you look to our bench and like we did last season, and mind you, last season we had a full bill of health. We had Havertz, Saka, Martinelli in those fixtures, Trossard in those matches against Bayern, and we couldn't find that goal. We had to bring on Eddie Nketiah deep into the match at the Allianz. And with all due respect to him, I think we all collectively knew that summarises Arsenal's position. You cannot expect to defeat one of the European powerhouses by bringing on young Nketiah in that situation. And we all collectively knew, okay, we need to address this in the transfer market come the summer, and we didn't. And we now we find ourselves even further back from that situation last year, given the cluster compound injuries we've suffered. So much has to go right for Arsenal. That's just the nature of the beast right now. So look, I'm going to leave it there. I can just feel my voice going off very little sleep. My apologies for some incoherent rambling on at times here, and the overall, dour mood that this podcast may reflect. I hope this has helped somewhat. Please share with me your thoughts. Any suggestions, comments, feedback is certainly more than welcome. And I hope you're all coping well wherever you are in the world with the loss here. Look, it was entirely. I do feel it was coming. I just didn't think it would happen now. I was just hoping we can just still somehow stay in the room, find a way, keep grinding out results, wins somehow, and just get to a point where we could have some key players returning to really lift the mood around the entire outlook, because there was still so much still to play for. So that's the hardest part, that there was so much on the line, and we just didn't get it done. We didn't. They were a constant threat on the counter. I must say that again. They played really well, and they deserved the win. Arsenal got what we deserved, nothing. And it's just interesting. I was watching Kudus play. He was probably man of the match for me. And similar to what I said a few weeks ago when Ishak did his thing and dominated us across those 2 legs. It's funny how just when we come across these players who Arsenal were linked to 2-3 years ago when they were available on the market, and for whatever reason we didn't move for them, they somehow just seem to have a way of, coming back to bite us in the backside, almost like a point to prove performance. It's like, you didn't want me and here's what you're missing, and bang, they dial it up a notch against us. So look, it is what it is. I hope everyone's coping okay. I'll be back on in the coming days. We're going to turn our attention to Forest midweek. That's a really tough match, right? So I'll cover that another time, because it's a bit overwhelming to think about right now. But overall, a really disappointing day. plenty to think about and talk about for Arsenal, and I'm looking forward to see what answers the club can come up with, because we certainly need something now when there's still there's still that element of belief and luck, but it's almost basically dwindled now. So look, I'll sign out there. Thank you so much for listening. I'll talk to you soon on the next one. All the best. Thank you, and come on, Arsenal.